Welcome to the Rotary Club of Martinsburg podcast, where service meets community. I'm your host, Kevin Brackens, and I'm going to connect you with the people, stories, and projects that are making a difference here in West Virginia and beyond. At the Rotary Club of Martinsburg, we believe in service above self. Each week, we'll dive into conversations with local leaders, volunteers, and change makers who are driving positive change in our community. From community initiatives to global efforts, we're here to inform, inspire, and engage. So whether you're a long-term Rotarian or someone curious about how you can make a difference, this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore the power of service, leadership, and community in action. This conversation is made possible by Brackens Painting. Brackens Painting is the region's best residential and commercial painting company. When schedule and quality count on Brackens. We've got you covered. Michelle, thank you for being on the podcast. Tell me about Rotary.
Rotary. So for me, I first heard of Rotary probably in, I guess it would have been 2011-ish. And one of my friends, I was in a different group with, I was part of Main Street Martinsburg, and Randy Lewis was telling me, hey, you should really come with me and visit my Rotary Club.
What's Main Street Martinsburg?
Main Street Martinsburg is an organization, a nonprofit based in Martinsburg, and the goal of that organization is to revitalize the downtown.
Nice.
Yeah, so we actually were a part of that group together. I was on the board, and he was the executive director, and was part of Rotary, and he would talk about it all the time. And I was like, okay, I'll be your guest. I'll come. And I didn't really have any idea what to expect. I had no idea, what it was really about, but kind of fell in love with it pretty much immediately.
Can you remember what that first lunch was kind of like? Or I think it was
a breakfast, actually.
Yeah. So what was that like?
So they it was a morning club. And they met at 7:30, which was a bit early for me, but it worked in my schedule. I had just started a business, so having something early in the morning worked out well. And so everybody was super nice and welcoming, had breakfast, sat down, knew a lot of the people that were there, so that was cool, but a lot of new faces too. And I just remember thinking it was awesome that every single week they got together and they heard from speakers. And a lot of them were people from nonprofits or from the school system or, just talking about what's going on in the community. I had never been a part of anything that, did that. So I thought that was really cool.
Did you have like a regular attendance? Did you get there quite often?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was not exactly a fan of the 7:30 a.m. But again, it worked for my schedule. So yeah, I was pretty active and really enjoyed the club. So yeah.
Do you remember me presenting? Did you attend that one?
I don't think so.
I actually presented about Bros and Bras, our the running club, and about how it was an all welcoming sort of organization. We may have been a nonprofit at that point, which that was a defunct project that I kind of went down that road. Mm-hmm. But I was invited to speak at the 7:30 in the morning breakfast Rotary.
How did you feel about the 7:30 a.m.?
Well, I wasn't a Rotarian yet.
Okay.
So I didn't really know what I was getting into. I just know somebody I knew invited me out to speak. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good environment. I was nervous because as a presenter,
yeah,
and I'm not a professional presenter, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I communicated it well, and it was a nice organization. I remember that.
Nice.
I joined in 2017 in the Charlestown Club.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember I had sort of the same experience. I didn't know anything about Rotary, didn't know if it was locally. I'd seen the signs as you'd enter different random towns, Rotary or Civitans or Lions and stuff like that. And never really knew what it was about, but when I walked in the room, it was all the movers and good people that I already knew in the community. It sounds like you had the same sort of experience.
Definitely. And once I started kind of getting into Rotary and finding out more, the fact that it's an international organization with that international component was really important, because I was already serving on several boards. I was really involved in several different organizations locally that were doing amazing things locally.
Okay.
But for me, I felt like it was Rotary kind of encompassed not just all the things that were going on locally, like, just being able to sit at a club meeting and hear from so many different people from the community and different aspects of it. So I love that part of it, but I also love the fact that it went beyond just our local area and had kind of a worldwide perspective. There's nothing else that I'm aware of in the area that does that. And so that's kind of what drew me in, was just the international aspect and the world view. And so.
See, that's neat. I can see that perspective, and I appreciate that Rotary is so big, but I also love that we have such a local impact. Mm-hmm. There's ways to contribute inside Rotary, and I assume one day we'll have a podcast that talks about the Paul Harris and what that goes to, because it's such an enormous organization. And I describe it to people as you can want to impact the community by having a fundraiser, everything from a bake sale to a 5K to an auction or something, but
right.
You quickly find out, if you're not an expert fundraiser, you struggle to make what you thought would be easy to make when it comes to funds for the cause that you want to raise money for.
Sure.
What I was impressed with by Rotary is it's like a clearinghouse of a lot of people with means get together to contribute to helping the community. And then it becomes distributed in a responsible, with oversight across the entire community, helping sustainable initiatives and programs. Is that the same sort of vision you have there?
Right.
Yeah.
And, to your point, so many members of Rotary are heavily involved in other organizations. And again, we're hearing from all different kinds of parts of the community every single week. So I feel like the people who are active members of Rotary have an even broader understanding of what's going on locally than those who aren't, because of the people that we're sitting around the table talking to and their diversity, as well as the diversity of what we're hearing, each week as far as the presenters.
Nice. I can tell that we're both versed in certain ways, and this conversation can get off the rails pretty quick. So I'm going to organize it a little bit here. I think what we should do is talk about, you were recently the president of the club.
Yes.
And then I kind of want to talk about how that looks, as well as being a business owner, and what you were really happy with, what you were successful with in your term as president. Because just so people know, to be a club president, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm relatively new to the leadership side of things, but you have to do 1 year of president-elect. Is that what it is? Or is there even time before that?
Yeah, there is kind of a whole
ramp up.
Yes, which I guess each club acts differently.
Oh, really?
So as I mentioned, I was part of the morning club. And once I started having babies, mornings was the absolute worst time to ever think of trying to go to a meeting. So I did take kind of a hiatus, and thankfully once the kids got a little bit older and I was able to get back into Rotary, I found a new home at the Noon Club. And so I was in the morning Rotary for 2 or 3 years, took a 2 or 3 year break, and then came back. So I've been a part of this club since probably 2018 or 19, I think I joined. And so I was just one of the people sitting at the table, listening to what's going on. I didn't have any kind of leadership aspirations per se,
Right.
I was just a member and enjoying it. And I remember 2 people kind of came up to me, Pete, who was getting ready to step in as president in the next term. And Doug, who was the secretary of the club, they both kind of approached me and said that, I had been identified by the board as somebody who they were interested in seeing if I would be interested in, moving forward on leadership level. And so in talking with that, you kind of start out as vice president.
Okay.
And then go into being president-elect, and then into president. And so every club does things differently.
That's a 2-year ramp up before you're actually president.
2 years, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've actually talked through the leadership process with Rotary International. They kind of have you plugged in with other people who are coming up the ladder with other clubs. And not all clubs do that. But I think it's great that our club does because there's so many, we have, I think, 135 members of our club, plus we have a satellite club. So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people doing a lot of things. I mean, there are so many aspects of what our Rotary Club of Martinsburg does, that you really need that much time to kind of get geared up and understand, this is how we do this, and this is why, and this person does, this project, and this is why, and just that kind of thing. It's a lot to take in, and, that ramp up is needed, I think.
Well, it creates depth.
Mm-hmm.
If people understand that, and they're volunteering to be vice president and then president-elect and then president. And then ultimately there's some sort of debriefing for the next year also as the kind of outgoing president that helps the president.
Yes.
That sort of thing, just with guidance on what worked and what didn't in
right.
your term. That's some really good strategy. It's the depth you need, because also if somebody gets nervous or a little wiggly and they're like, after vice president, that was too much. I probably am not the right person. You have time to kind of ramp up the backup person. I also like that the board is proactive in a way. And fortunately, this club has a strong board. There's a lot of clubs. Some clubs are smaller than our board, in this more rural areas. But it's good to hear that the board strategically tries to identify potential leaders of the future and to get them on committees and groomed up or in officer positions. And then if they are interested, that's a really good move.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're also a business owner.
Yeah.
What's your business?
Advocate Insurance.
How long have you been in business?
I started that scratch in 2008. So what is that? 16
It's amazing.
years almost.
Congratulations. And you mentioned you had little ones?
Yes, I have a son, Caden. He's 9 years old. And then I have twin daughters that are 7.
Awesome.
So they keep me very busy. And we're getting into all the sports kind of fun stuff now. And my husband and I are going in opposite directions and trying to figure out how to get, a third parent to somehow take another child to, we're outnumbered basically. So we're not sure how this is going to go. But
And your husband's Kava?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And you guys are in business together?
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. That's an interesting dynamic. I'd love to have a conversation sometime with a glass of wine. Working with your significant other has got to be a real challenge.
It honestly just works for us. I mean, there's always those, really, as long as we both are in our lanes, there's no problem. So
in being the club president and having it be such a long commitment that starts off with X when you're vice president, and then president-elect, it's like X times 1.5.
Right.
And then when you're president, it's probably 3X.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe even 4X.
I was thinking 5.
Really? Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, it's good perspective. So in what ways was Kava able to support you in this journey?
Well, definitely Kava and I had the conversation when I was contemplating, pursuing that role, because it was going to require him to pick up some things that I had been doing as things, progressed into especially the year of president. There would be a lot of sport events that I would be missing that he would need to make sure, were facilitated. So definitely he was a huge support, for me to be able to even do this. And I think timing, in my situation, it was really good timing because, kind of as I've mentioned, now we're getting just even busier with the kids. So it was kind of like we were at that lull where it worked. So it made sense to do it at the time. I'm really, really glad I did have that experience of leading our club. I'm really proud of it. I think so highly of our club and the things that we do. And to think that for a year I was trusted with leading our club, I'm just really thankful that I had that opportunity.
Well, it's an amazing honor to be the president, and you should be proud of being accepted into the position or nominated or whatever the word is. It's an honor, and it's an achievement because if you really don't know what goes down in a club that's large and very productive, it's a lot to organize. But let's pivot to talk about what are you most proud of as your time in Rotary or as president or both?
So when I accepted the position, honestly, there were a lot of things I didn't even know how our club operated. And so as I was kind of learning some of the things, very simple things had just not been changed for so long, such as when I asked for the membership application because I had somebody who was interested in becoming a member, and I was given the membership application, and it was like a Xerox form from many, many years. It hadn't been touched. Some of the verbiage didn't really make sense anymore, or wasn't applicable. It was just nothing wrong with it, just kind of out of date or needed to be, updated. And even just being electronic, so that became something that was important to me, just to have some updates in our systems and to have some updates with our technology, just to kind of push us, forward. And it felt like, the right time. I think the club was ready for it. And thankfully we had Daryl, who stepped up as secretary, who was able to, I definitely contribute that to him a lot more than to myself, but just, giving him the ability or the opening to kind of take things to the next level.
Good. What else?
The Hope Gala. So that was Tracy and myself. We were on our way to president training with Rotary. And on our way back, I guess it was, we start talking about the fact that our club has had historically different dinners or, kind of fancier fundraisers, but we didn't have anything going on at the time. At that time, we had pickleball and we had golf tournament, which are amazing fundraisers, but we just were lacking that kind of fancy get together that we had done in the past. And so she and I were talking, and both of us love to get all dolled up. So we were like, let's do a black tie optional, fun, gala. And so that's kind of how the Hope Gala got started. And the very first year was my year as president. So I was really, really proud of that. We're getting it all geared up for next year. And for me, Rotary, our local Martinsburg Rotary, we raise so much money and we give it right back out into the community in really impactful ways. And so to have an additional fundraiser, just to be able to have even more of an impact, that was really, really important.
I agree. Give me the 10-cent tour of what that event is like if one was considering participating.
Sure. So the Hope Gala is in the fall, September 28th this year. And basically we have it at the Hilton Garden Inn. They do an absolutely amazing job with the food. We have an open bar, and we have a ton of silent auction items, really nice, unique silent auction items, as well as live auction. And you right here came up with this amazing idea for our first year, and I hope to continue that on for many years to come. The dueling piano show, which is amazing. Whenever Tracy called me and was like, okay, Kevin's got this idea. What do you think? I'm like, yes, dueling pianos. Does he know any dueling pianos? Well, no, he's an idea guy. He gave you an idea. Now you go figure it out. Okay. So definitely really glad with who we chose. Felix and Fingers. They play all over the country, and they're just good. So the dueling piano show, I had never been to one. And it's like comedy / music. It's like serious and not serious. It's
all the songs you want to hear.
It's everything. So you get to ask and request whatever songs you want. Since this is a fundraiser, the guys are really nice, and whenever somebody comes up and requests, they drop, a 20 or whatever in the tip jar. All of those tips go right back to Rotary Club of Martinsburg too. So you go up, you select whatever song you want to hear, and these guys are so good. It's mind-blowing because I'm not a music person. I mean, I've never played an instrument, can't sing worth a lick, except for, in the car at the top of my lungs, but nobody's listening to that, thankfully.
That's good.
But it's amazing that they know every song. Like, I mean, I think I requested some Spice Girls song, and I mean, he like rocked it. Like, I still have that memory in my mind, like how good he was, and like the inflection of his voice, and it was just hilarious. He's so good.
It was a really special event, and it is nice to get truly formaled up.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those events in Martinsburg, and I would consider this gala to be one of the, if not the most premier, leveled up sort of event that happens.
And that's definitely what we were going for. I mean, we have a professional photographer that's taking photos, because if you get all dressed up like that, you'll want some good photos to remember the occasion. And it's a full sit-down meal. It's just...
I remember the meal being one of the best meals I had had at an event like that. At like a large fundraiser, the meal was top notch.
We got so many good remarks about the food. So we're not deviating much from the menu from last year, if you can remember what it was. But we're making sure that the food continues to be excellent like it was our first year.
That's good. And then tickets can be purchased online at the website. Share what the website is.
It's martinsburgrotary.com.
Nice. Yeah. Let's move on to another topic. I'm reading my list that's just over your shoulder here.
Sure.
Two-part question. What traits make a good Rotarian? And if you knew that somebody was considering joining but was on the fence, what would you tell them to help encourage them to join?
I think the service above self is the Rotary motto. And that's what makes the best Rotarian. If you're coming into Rotary because you want to promote your business or you want people to know who you are, I feel like or you want to have, a nice buffet option at the Holiday Inn for lunch every week, you're coming in for the wrong reasons. And I think if you're coming in because you want to contribute to your community and you're coming in because you want to learn more about your community, and you like the idea of that international component, that although our lives revolve around right here in our community, there is a bigger world out there as well. So if you're coming in with those kind of values or principles, and I think you are exactly what Rotary is looking for, and what our club is looking for. So I would say, and I've invited several people who have gone on to become Rotarians, and if you're on the fence about it, just come to a meeting. Just come and check it out, because ultimately I think you're going to find yourself surrounded by a lot of like-minded people, in the sense that they're all there for the right reasons. They're there to make an impact. They're there because they care about their community and about the world. My favorite part of Rotary is the diversity of thought, the diversity of people that I get to interact with. I think a lot of times we build our friend groups around people who are like us, think like us, look like us, talk like us, and that's natural and that's a human tendency we all have. But for me, our Rotary Club, there are so many people in that room that I would not have ever connected with had it not been for Rotary, because we are in different circles of life, different phases of life. And I think that's something that it's my favorite part of Rotary, is getting to know people that I wouldn't necessarily become friends with. And now we're friends because of Rotary, because of a shared common desire to do good and be the good in the world.
I totally agree. And I'm making a few notes on that. Like the just come to lunch thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So Charlestown was a smaller group, but I was really excited that I knew 75% of the room. And I knew they were good people.
Right.
And it's nice to be around good people. And in that club, it was every time I left lunch, I felt better about the day. Like I knew the energy of good people was there. I ended up leaving that club because when COVID hit and everything kind of went remote, it just wasn't my jam. Like I was there for the people, not for the attendance, if that makes sense. Like I didn't feel I had to attend. And when it was taken away, the whole Zoom, I had to go Zoom, I just decided to shut down for a little bit, just because it wasn't right for me. But then coming over to the Martinsburg side is the same exact feeling. And I'll say, in a club that is so vast and productive, I brought in Mario, a friend of mine, and was at the time the president-elect of his Shenandoah branch or club, and he was truly impressed by our size and organization, right down to how we manage the presentations, to the presentations that were given by students, and then the club updates that goes on for like 5 to 10 minutes of just club updates and community updates and how we're involved. It truly is it's a marvel, and you do feel so much better, after a good lunch with good people. And then even when I go to the gym, I see Rotarians there that are not in my age group, not in my demographic, but we're always high-fiving each other.
Yeah.
And it's neat to look across the room and see that there's somebody I can call on or ask for something, and either they can help me or they can find someone to help me. It's an incredible network that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that. I think we should go ahead and wrap up, but I like to wrap up with a call to action. And what a Rotary call to action is for me is, what would you say? Why should somebody want to join? And you've kind of hit on a lot of these throughout the conversation, but hit us with it now. What's the move?
I think that the world's so much bigger than us, and we can only do so much on our own. And having a sense of community kind of touches on what you were just talking about, like being able to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. You're able to, like, for instance, the Hope Gala, that was an idea Tracy and I came up with. If she and I on our own tried to do this, it would not be anywhere near as successful as it's been. We have over $37,000 right now raised in donations, in sponsorships alone.
Which is incredible in this era, for sure.
And so this is in our second year, and we plan to just continue to build on that. But she and I couldn't have done that on our own. We did that because we're supported by Rotary Club of Martinsburg, all of the people who are on our committee that are helping us, all of the connections that they have. And Rotary Club of Martinsburg has a reputation in the community. People know who we are, they trust us, and they know that we're going to do the most good with that money. And so those are the things that, if you want to be impactful, trying to do it on an island on your own is only going to get you so far. If you want to be impactful and be surrounded by a group of like-minded and yet very diverse-minded people, and actually who are going to make you better, then join Rotary.
That's a perfect answer. Michelle, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.